WNBA player Brittney Griner has been released back into U.S. custody after negotiations were made between the U.S. and Russia for a prisoner trade. After months of failed negotiations, Russia agreed to trade Griner's freedom in exchange for the freedom of a convicted arms merchant known as the Merchant of Death. Griner arrived back in the United States on Friday, December 8th, where she was welcomed back by her wife Cherelle Griner. In February 2021, Griner was found with cannabis-derived oil cartridges at Sheremetyevo International Airport in Moscow. She was detained on site and eventually pleaded guilty. Despite her claiming that it was a mistake, Griner became a Russian prisoner. The Phoenix Mercury Center was traveling to Russia to play basketball during the WNBA's off-season. She didn't expect her trip to turn into almost a year of court and failed negotiations for her freedom. Griner was eventually sentenced to 9 years in prison for her illegal contraband. Griner's arrest occurred at the same time as Russia's attack on Ukraine, making negotiations for her release more difficult. Griner was held at the IK2 female penal colony located in Mordovia. At the colony, Griner worked in a warehouse, performing manual labor. Numerous factors made prison labor especially difficult for Griner. Griner is 6'9", and her size made it difficult to accomplish the female labor tasks. Women at her labor camp were assigned to jobs sewing uniforms, but her large hands made that too difficult. So instead, she was left to lift and carry fabric all day. Her size also made the small twin-sized beds extremely uncomfortable for her to sleep in. To make matters worse, Griner does not speak any Russian and was left to try to comprehend orders in a language she didn't understand at all. Over the summer, Griner contacted President Joe Biden through a letter, making a plea for his help. Fans of Griner made the story blow up on social media, which put pressure on Biden to take action toward her release. Biden soon after announced that he would be personally working to secure Brittney's release as soon as possible, as well as the release of Paul Whelan and other U.S. nationals who are wrongfully detained or held hostage in Russia and around the world. The Biden administration made their first attempt to free Griner by offering a trade of Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout in exchange for Griner, as well as Paul Whelan, who is a former U.S. Marine. The U.S. offer was determined unsuccessful after Griner received her 9-year sentencing. The Biden administration declared it a wrongful conviction and called it a sham trial. Negotiations continued to fall through because Vladimir Putin was not responsive to Biden's offers. Russian aide Yuri Ushakov criticized Biden's attempts to release wrongfully detained Americans and said that Putin did not consider these negotiations to be a priority. 294 days after she was detained in Russia, Brittney Griner was finally released and sent back home to the United States in a new prisoner trade. American Paul Whelan was not part of this trade as Biden initially proposed, but the president reiterated that he plans on doing whatever he can to return Whelan to the country as well. In exchange for Griner's freedom, the Biden administration returned Viktor Bout to Russia, otherwise known as the Merchant of Death. Viktor Bout is a convicted Russian arms dealer who is known for smuggling weapons from Eastern Europe to Africa and the Middle East in the 90s and early 2000s. Bout, known by the nickname the Merchant of Death, which was given to him by British government minister Peter Hain after he read a report on Bout's dealings. Bout was arrested by the United States authorities in collaboration with the Royal Thai Police. He was sentenced in 2011 to 25 years in prison. He served 10 years before he was traded for Brittney Griner. On Friday, December 9th, Brittney Griner landed in the United States. She was welcomed home by her wife, Cherelle Griner, who received news of her release on Tuesday. Earlier this week, Cherelle traveled to the White House and was able to speak to her wife freely for the first time in nearly a year. She also gave an address to the public announcing her wife's release. Brittney Griner landed in San Antonio early in the morning and was whisked away to a nearby hospital for a health evaluation. Once she is released from the hospital, Griner will be moved to a secure location where her physical and mental health will continue to be monitored as she attempts to go back to her life as it was before.